I've watched One Piece multiple times. I've watched subbed, I've watched dubbed, I've rewatched arcs, I've watched reactions. I've been caught up for years, and somehow I still didn't realize how much of this story was going over my head. Not because I wasn't paying attention, and not because I didn't care, but because I thought I was watching a pirate adventure. And I didn't realize Oda was quietly building one of the craziest worlds in anime. And the deeper I got into One Piece, the more I realized something. One Piece didn't become deeper. I just started to see more of what was already there. And I think that's why so much of this slipped past me. Because when I first watched One Piece, I wasn't thinking about world politics. I wasn't thinking about ancient history. I wasn't thinking about hidden mysteries. I was watching through Luffy's eyes. I cared about the adventure, the crew, the islands, the fights, the emotional moments. I wanted to know if Nami was okay. I wanted to know if Robin would join. I wanted to know if Luffy would win. That was my focus. And honestly, I think that's exactly how Oda wanted it. Because while I was focused on the journey, he was quietly building something much bigger in the background. And the craziest part, he was showing us answers long before most of us even knew the questions. One of the biggest realizations I've had during this rewatch is something that sounds absolutely ridiculous. I genuinely don't think I understood One Piece power system for years. And that sounds crazy, because I've watched this series multiple times. But hear me out. When I thought about anime like Bleach, the power system feels obvious. Shikai, Bankai, power progression. Everything is clearly defined. One Piece never felt like that to me. It felt chaotic. People had different fruits, different fighting styles, different abilities. There were swordsmen, snipers, fishmen, giants. Everything felt disconnected. And then one day it hit. How did I not realize there was a larger system underneath all of it? Because Haki was right in front of me. Shanks staring down the Sea King. Characters sensing things they shouldn't have been able to sense. People intimidating what others without touching them. I was watching Haki happen. I just didn't understand what I was watching. I think a huge reason for that is because Luffy didn't understand it either. One Piece was teaching me at the same pace it was teaching him. I wasn't behind. I was exactly where Oda wanted me to be. Then Wano happened, and watching Luffy learn deeper forms of Haki to fight Kaido finally made everything click. Suddenly, years of moments started connecting in my head. Even scenes with Zoro feel different now. Remember when Zoro talked about cutting what he wants to cut and not cutting what he doesn't want to cut? I don't think I fully appreciated what Oda was doing there the first time. Now I watch these moments and think, how long have you been setting this up? Because apparently the answer is a very long time. Another realization that keeps hitting me is how massive the One Piece world actually is. And the funny thing is, I always knew the map. I knew the Grand Line, the Red Line, the Four Blues, the Calm Belt, the New World. I knew all of that. But understanding something and appreciating it are two different things. Because now when I rewatch, the world feels bigger than it used to. Not because Oda added more. It's because I'm finally seeing how connected everything is. An island isn't just an island. A government decision isn't just a government decision. A random conversation isn't always random. Everything feels connected to something else. And somehow Oda has been juggling all of that for decades. That's the part that blows my mind now. Not the size of the world. It's the fact that it all feels connected. Meeting Blackbeard again might be one of the weirdest experiences in this entire rewatch. Because when I first watched One Piece, Blackbeard was just some guy. Seriously, just some random dude talking about dreams and eating a pie. Nothing about him felt world-changing. Nothing about him screamed future legend. Nothing about him made me think, oh, that's one of the most important people in the entire story. And now, I watched those same scenes and laughed because Oda casually introduced one of the greatest villains in anime, and I had absolutely no idea. The first time I watched him, he felt like background noise. Now every scene feels loaded, every line feels intentional, and every appearance feels important. The turning point for me was Ace. That's when Blackbeard stopped being some guy. That's when he became personal, and honestly, he's still the villain I hate the most, and I mean that as a compliment. Because Oda created a character that still makes me angry years later. Now when I rewatch, I don't see a side character, I see a future storm. And somehow Oda had the storm standing right in front of me the whole time. The five elders might be the realization that embarrasses me the most. Because I always knew they were important. I just didn't understand how important. Back then, I treated them like background politicians. People sitting in a room having meetings. I paid more attention to admirals. The admirals felt stronger, more active, more dangerous. The five elders just sat there, or at least that's what I thought. Now, every scene with them feels completely different, because now I understand they're connected to some of the biggest mysteries in the world. And I suddenly find myself asking, how did I watch these old men sit around a table for hundreds of episodes and never realize they were this important? That's the magic of rewatching One Piece. The scenes don't change, you do. I will say, if I had to point out one moment that inspired this entire video, it would be Noland. Because out of everything I've rediscovered during this rewatch, this is the one that affected me the most. Not because it's the biggest mystery, and also not because it's one of the most important One Piece lore, but because it's the first time I truly understood why this story matters. The first time I watched Skypiea, I understood the emotional story. I understood the friendship, and the promise, the tragedy, and the heartbreak. And I understood that Noland was telling the truth. But that's where my understanding stopped. This time, having been through Egghead, having seen Vegapunk's message, I've learned more about the world. I've seen how much of One Piece revolves around lost history and hidden truths. And suddenly Noland's story means something completely different to me. Because now I'm not just thinking about whether he was right, I'm thinking about what happened. What caused the city to disappear, what truths were lost, and how much of history are people missing. And for the first time, Noland's story stopped feeling like a flashback from Skypiea and started feeling connected to the larger mystery of One Piece. That's what hit me. And it also kind of got me emotional. I will say though, being that the Elders lore made me feel the most embarrassed, the Void Century might be the realization that makes me feel the dumbest. Not because I missed it, but because I didn't. Robin talked about it constantly. People died because of it. Entire islands suffered because of it. The story practically screamed, "This matters," and somehow I still underestimated it. The same thing happened with Joy Boy, and the same thing happened with the Will of the D. I knew these things existed. I knew they were important. I just didn't understand how connected they were. The giant straw hat, the Void Century, the world government, the ancient weapons, Joy Boy, the Will of D. At first, they felt like separate mysteries. Now they feel like different doors leading to the same room. So it's how did I hear about these things for years and still not realize they were basically the entire story? But these are the realizations that keeps hitting me every time I rewatch One Piece. I thought I understood the story, and in a way, I did. I understood the adventure, the crew, and the fights, the emotional moments. But I only understood part of it. The part Oda wanted me to understand at the time. And now that I'm older and have rewatched it multiple times, now that I know where some of these roads lead, I keep finding myself having the same reaction. How did I not realize this? How did I not see that? How was that sitting right in front of me the entire time? And somehow, those realizations don't make me love One Piece less, they make me love it more. Because One Piece didn't become deeper, the story didn't suddenly change. I just started seeing more of what was already there. That's what makes this journey so special. I got to experience One Piece once through Luffy's eyes, and now I get to experience it again through my own. But until next time, sail safe and stay spirited.